intelligence. He was there, I recall that. One of the brothers from the video, hunting down Reggie on 125th, he was there. There was a couple of people there. Now, you know, not to speak on Moorish affairs generally, but this is something that's imperative to keep in mind, because it was a public assemblage for Moors. But Bratton Bay, right, now mind you, we're talking 2010, 2011, and the information that, you know, Taj and Raj were bringing to the people had everything, you know, like, for lack of a better word, popping. Like everything was, it was a lot of influence, to say the least, you know what I mean, in the area. And from that, you know, Bratton Bay had wanted to call a meeting to sit down, you know, with Raj and Taj, etc. Now the thing about this meeting was there was an assemblage for the public from, I'm gonna say, about like 12 to 5, maybe 12 to 4, something like that. But to put it in their time space, they wanted to actually have a private meeting with Raj and Taj, meaning that everybody that was in the building, that was just there, you know, the average group that just was coming to the event to be there and assemble with Moors, Bratton Bay and, you know, Temple 13, they wanted to exclude everybody from this meeting and have a specific meeting with Raj and Taj. Now, imagine that, right? So we all there, we're there to congregate, we're there to, you know, build with the people, the nation. So they stopped the meeting so that everybody could clear out, right? And bring in this meeting, this closed door type of meeting that they wanted to have amongst a few of their select, you know, members or whatnot, plus Rise and Taj. Now, mind you, they kicked everybody out. It was the only reason I was in there. Me and Brother Minka was in there on Mufti detail. It was like, okay, if you want to talk with us, you know, our Muftis, there's no way they're going to be excluded from the room. You know what I mean? So that's how we were able to stay and hear what they were presenting. All right, so let me just rewind you back. Before that, right, it was one of the brethren, they were outside and the National Grand Sheik hadn't gotten there yet. So I never really heard of them like that, right? They're saying that Bratton Bay was their National Grand Sheik. I didn't come up under that like that. So I'm like, National Grand Sheik, I'm thinking at this time, you know, a Taj, a Nature, Raj, you know what I mean? Even Queen Valerie for that matter. At that time, that's where I'm at from this information. I'm like, National Grand Sheik, who? Coming from Maryland? They're like, yeah, he didn't get here yet. So he finally get there, whatever. I'm going to bring it back to that. And we in the room, right? So, you know, at this time, I'm just somebody, you know what I mean? I mean, like, I'm no, like, you know, everybody knows or seen everybody before from being at different events. But, you know, at this particular time, I'm not speaking, I'm not doing any of that. I'm just a part of movement, you know, and physical contributions like that, you know what I mean? Like, being there at the event, you know, packing books, you know, things of that nature. I'm just a part of it. So, you know, I'm playing my position and I'm like listening to what Bratton Bay is presenting. And what he was trying to do, looking back at it in retrospect, was to get Rise and Taj to switch up their format of, you know, how they're going about dealing with nationality. This is what they were trying to do, to convert it from that to naturalization. So, of course, Rise and Taj wasn't going for that. You know what I mean? They weren't acquiescing or compromising the format of which they were teaching birthrights and nationality from a Lodial perspective. So, the thing that he was trying to do to get them to compromise on the level was this: nationalize, right, and get on the Social Security, on the driver's license, and it was another instrument, I forgot. A couple of those de facto instruments get your free national name on it, because he was pulling out documents. This is why a couple weeks ago, when Hassan was talking about this situation, when he ran into Baton Bay, I already know the whole breakdown when he said he started to pull out papers and things like that. It's a spew, so I already knew what it was. I'm like, yeah, that's the protocol. So he pulled out some papers that were showing that he had his free national name on the Social Security, you know what I mean? Free national name on the driver's license, and the driver's license said white person. So they were basically trying to get, Rise and Tide to convert to that format of nationalizing or naturalizing, or to deal with nationality in a compromised position. And the reason why is because when you naturalize, you're admitting you're an alien, and anybody who knows anything about Moors, RV publications, etc., knows that, the foundation is being Aboriginal and Indigenous to the Americans, not looking at our history from a perspective of we came from Africa, and that's where our history stopped and started. You know what I mean? We know that before the great earthquake that caused the Great Atlantic Ocean, as Noble Drew spoke about, the Earth has a history of us being here, or we have a history correlating with that time frame of being here, when the lands were connected, etc. So the vibe of naturalizing and waiving that status was not being well received by Rising Tide. So it was like the meeting was over rather quickly, because once they seen they weren't compromising the format of teaching nationality in a allodial manner, there was really nothing else to talk about, because there was no compromise. Nobody was going to go that route of, dealing with the de facto quasi documents. We was like, look, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. We want supreme freedom, at all costs. We trying to move like that. That's really what it is. So to subject and compromise that principle, to naturalize under the Hebrew Mosaic Code, was something that wasn't being received, because we're looking at it like, well, if you're going to naturalize under the Hebrew Mosaic Code, don't claim to rep what Noble Drew brought, because he told you this is about nationality, and the fact that, if you're really trying to deal with Mosaic law, we have things in place for that, meaning the First Amendment guarantees religious freedom. So why not just do what the Prophet Noble Drew said to do and enforce the Constitution? Why naturalize under the Hebrew Mosaic law when we can nationalize under the American law of the land, of this hemisphere, and it's already protected. Legislation can't void it, it's perpetual. So it wasn't adding up to what the Prophet Noble Drew from the lessons we received, what he was saying about enforcing the Constitution, and things of that nature. Now, prior to that, earlier, it was a couple of people, including myself, who innocently got confused, and I'm talking about 12, 13 years old, you know what I mean? And learning about the difference between a natural person and an artificial person. So when you hear the word naturalized, it seems like it's leaning more towards going into your natural person status through life. But when you know that the law, what the word naturalized means, that's for aliens, foreigners, pilgrims. And we know well that we're not that, so it doesn't fit. And but it sounded good, it sounds good, oh yeah, we're gonna naturalize everything, natural, natural hair, natural everything, let's naturalize. But that's not what it is. this is where, again, why you need to really study etymology. It's an important factor when you're dealing with these words and why we don't, claim certain things, because it can put you in an artificial jurisdiction and you won't even know that's what's happening. You know what I mean? You just sincerely get infuriated, if you will. So, all of that being the case, we're like, nah, we don't need to naturalize. It's nothing we need to compromise doing, because all the power is in the people, and we're the Aboriginal and Indigenous people. We already have protection for religious freedom. Why would we need to waive that to come under Mosaic law when all of that could come up under the First Amendment? You know what I mean? Or Muslim law, or Buddhist law, or if you want to be a Hebrew Israelite, quote unquote, from a religious perspective. You know what I mean? All of these things you have that right to do under the First Amendment. But, it didn't make sense to move like that. So after that, we're leaving out the building, and it was interesting because the meeting was over rather quickly. We're leaving out the building, and of course there's still more there, but they still feel as though they have something to substantiate. There's one brethren in particular. He's showing us paperwork and all of this, Social Security. He had the L of the Bay. I forgot if he was an L or a Bay, but I do recall his free national name was on the Social Security card. He had his free national name, but it was in defective language though, so it's still fraud. You know what I mean? Because it was in all caps. So he had that, and then he started explaining to us that he had where he worked at. They had him classified as white. Now this is a melanated Moor, right? And this is where my antennas went super way up. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't know, if we would be putting ourselves in danger, like dealing with these people, because not in any fearful way, but just in a compromising way, because he was telling us that he worked for the NYPD, and they had him classified as white. Now, mind you, this is a Moor who was in the Moor Science Temple of America, but what made me feel some type of way is, before this meeting, I've seen this Moor on multiple occasions and never known that was his JOB, like he was working for the policy enforcer, highwayman. So when he said that, like, it was just so, like, it was all good. Like, I was split because, the environment I come from, certain things are just instilled that you don't deal with everybody the same way. So, whichever way you're going to deal with policy enforcers, you got to know that you got to be careful, because they have missions, they have directives and orders. So, I don't know, what his intentions were, if he was, holding it down. I don't know, you know what I mean? But I'm just saying, that raised my antennas when he said he worked for the police. So I'm like, this is kind of odd, that this law is working for them,